Hi, everyone. Welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. This is a special company update and webinar format presentation where I am featuring Signature Resources. I am chatting with the president and CEO, Robert Vallis. Robert will be bringing us up to speed on Signature Resources broadly as a company, but also focusing a lot on the drill program that has just started at the Lingman Lake Property. It's the first program that this company is running at the project. I'm going to have Robert highlight some of the targets that they're going to be drilling and some of the overall goals. I am also going to turn off our videos during this webinar so that everybody can focus more on the underlying presentation. There is a video that will be available after this webinar. And if anybody has any questions after watching this webinar, please email me, fleck@kereport.com. I will get those answered for you either directly by Robert or in a future interview. Robert, let's get started with the presentation. I will be interjecting questions throughout this presentation, but for the start, take us away here, Robert.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here for sure. As president, CEO, and director of this firm, I'm very excited about the opportunity that we have in front of us, not only from just the sheer scale of opportunity, but what we currently have in hand that we're working to expand. So I'll start to move through this presentation. Of course, forward-looking statements, can't hide from them. There they are. I'll point out with this first slide that, we're standing on something that is historically discovered. Like much of the gold discoveries that occurred in the 40s and 50s in Timmins and Kirkland Lake, Lingman Lake is no exception. It was discovered in the 40s. Over 28,000 meters of drilling has been done on it to date. There was a shaft and 3 sublevels sunk back in the 40s with the intention of moving towards production. Bulk samples, mill equipment were brought to the site, but unfortunately World War II, market conditions and so forth, it ended the work that was happening there. But nevertheless, because of the fragmentation of those land claims after the company shut down, it stayed dormant essentially in receivership and private ownership for nearly 40 years. That was reestablished in the 80s by a few other companies that took a kick at it, but also financially weren't able to make a go of it. And then around 2013, when Signature was incorporated, our founder, John Lelever, put a lot of his own effort and funding into consolidating this land package back together. We're now sitting with recent expansions of that at over 264 square kilometers. That's over 32 kilometers in strike length, east-west. It's just an immense package. We'll get into more about what that means. We are also in possession of a historical gold resource, 234,000 ounces of high-grade ounces, just under 7 grams. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of data that's pointing out that it's far richer than we had realized. Work was done in 2017, 18, up to 2000 by our previous team and our team that's working with us actually to do geophysics and also drilling. We'll get more into that. We own our own drill rig. As Corey just mentioned, we just initiated last week a 2,500 meter winter drill campaign, the first for this newly rebooted company. Fully funded through that right into the spring. We're certainly looking with that to expand the historical resource significantly and rapidly towards what we're anticipating will be a multi-million ounce world-class high-grade resource over the next 18 to 24 months. So that'll take us well into 2022. Moving forward.
Robert, just a quick question
Yes,
regarding this drill program then. Is it to confirm the historic resource or is it to actually grow off that?
It's to grow. There has been work done and work we're continuing to do to confirm it. There were twin hole drilling and re-assaying done that all came back with over 94% correlation, which is incredible. The twin hole drilling that was done, 22 holes, came back with results that exceeded the holes they were twinning. That was a great surprise. We'll see more of that in a second. But the fact that this is right on surface and as rich as it is in terms of ounce density, we're looking to grow that scale immediately. Um, the location, as you see here, is the northwestern part of Ontario on the northern perimeters of the prolific Red Lake district near the Manitoba border. Uh, Moving in farther, we see that is indeed where we are. We're basically in between the Musselwhite and Monument Bay projects, again, just north of that Red Lake district, but still well within a very untapped, unexplored Greenstone Belt. And for the geos out there, this Timmins, Kirkland Lake region and right up through, there's a lot of greenstone opportunities, but this one, as I mentioned earlier, has been under the radar, untapped for some time. Uh, Looking here, you can see that we're also surrounded with significant infrastructure. We've got several First Nation communities around us, nothing on our land package, but there's airport facilities, there's seasonal roads in there, permanent power on the Manitoba side. The Ontario government is working with the group of First Nations to move the power north up into the northern parts of northwestern Ontario, up to, I guess, where would be Sachigo Lake First Nation group, which is about 40 kilometers from us to the east. But again, great infrastructure. We tend to operate out of Winnipeg up through Thompson, mostly because that's where we can get heavy lift flights, bringing in equipment and so forth at this stage into our site. Moving into the spring and summer, we'll be flying directly into site.
Now, how does the different seasons impact the way that you get to the site?
Well, right now we've had nothing short of apocalyptic weather, I guess we can say. Snowfalls have been record up there. It's interfered with ice formation, which means your ice roads, ice runway strips have been a real problem. We've managed to battle through all of that and COVID conditions and start drilling on time with our camp developed. But essentially, we would normally fly right into the site at a lake that's just about 900 kilometers, 900 meters due south of us, called Lingman Lake. We do only fly in there with our equipment, which is essentially the site. But for now, what we've been doing is flying through these communities and the airport facilities they have. The closest right now being the Red Sucker Lake First Nation airport facility, of which we've been staging out of there with helicopters into our site. So that's how it's been happening.
Okay.
Certainly, as that infrastructure pushes up, the power and what will likely be, more than seasonal roads up there on the Ontario side over the next 2 to 3 years, let's say, that timing will bode very well for us, completing or getting significantly through defining this resource and hopefully other similar discoveries throughout our land package, in time for that next phase of engineering and so forth. So lots of infrastructure, well enabled. The land package, as I mentioned, is massive, right? Over 264 square kilometers, 32 odd kilometers from east to west. I mean, just jump in your car and drive 32 kilometers, you get a feel for that. It's significant. But why? We'll get into that. It is an incredible geologic setting, very untapped. However, it's very well known. Greenstone belts are well known for high quality, high value gold deposition. Most notable, everyone's aware of, is the Red Lake District to the south, and then Timmins and Kirkland Lake as well, farther east. Looking at this small purple patented claim block, that's where we're going to be zooming into. That's where the Lingman Lake Historical Resource is. This is where we're drilling. We're working with the knowns and moving from the knowns to the unknowns out into our regional package. So that's really the focus. Here we've zoomed into that. You can see a satellite image of where our camp is right now. We're drilling to the west of that, and to the east of that is the known historical resource. You can see to the south, the Lingman Lake is quite sizable. That is where a lot of our transportation directly to the site will be. And again, I mentioned it's barely a kilometer due south of us. The land here, by the way, very flat, friendly, lightly treed, as you can see. A lot of rock outcrops and so forth. So it's not all muskeg or something like that. It's actually pretty friendly ground to work with.
Robert, can you tell us who owns that patent to the right there? Any more information on that?
Uh, It's owned by a U.S. based forestry firm, and right now it's simply claims that we don't have. Although you see the size of our claim package in the previous slide, it's not something we're really focused on. As I pointed out, most of it is towards the west of Lingman Lake.
Okay,
I'll be
thank you.
demonstrating why that is. But the proximity is not an issue for us in terms of operational challenges. It's not that close
Okay.
that it poses that kind of problem. Zooming in on a surface view here, again, you can see that our drilling here to the west of this diabase dike post mineralization intrusive event that occurred geologically. So we're looking to expand this to the west. To the east here, those solid red lines you see, those are the gold lenses, if you will, all of which form the entire known gold deposit mineralization anyway. The gold is within what we call a flood zone. These are not discrete, white quartz veins that we're chasing off into the unknown. These are within a very well defined, consistent zone of mineralization where the gold settled essentially into these pancake type features or lenses, if you will, very steeply dipping and so forth. We'll see more of that in 3D in a sec. But it's important to point out here this orange rock package our chief geo has highlighted here. This quartz feldspar porphyry package. This is known in Greenstone Belts to be quite well related and associated with the gold deposition. It's no exception here with Lingman Lake, as you can see. But also, you can see further to the north, we've identified another one of those mineralization packages, mineral packages, and it hasn't been drilled there. So we also believe strongly that this is open not only on strike and depth, but also north-south strike as well. So looking at this from underground then, here we can see, in 3D, a working geologic model. It's important to point out too that since I came on board, we've secured the services of Nordman Engineering, excellent engineering firm that is working towards moving our historical resource that you see depicted on the screen into a 43101 compliant modern standard. So of course these interpretations are going to be settling in and refining, but this is the extent of the knowledge we have to date. And as you can see, that knowledge has come from a plethora of drilling, over 28,000 meters shown here. It's a pincushion of drilling. Clearly, like many of the mines that were discovered and brought into operation in the 40s and 50s in Timmins, Kirkland Lake, and Red Lake, this was no exception. These guys were moving into production, so that's why it was drilled the way it is. You can see that each drill hole has done double, triple, multiple duty. It's not just piercing and trying to, reach one particular zone. It's hitting multiple zones. So we got a lot of data, a lot of knowledge about this particular, deposit. You can see the workings here that I've zoomed in on, the shaft, the 3 sublevels that were developed, bulk samples taken out of these, all returned over 19 grams per ton average grade. That's a lot more than the 7 grams that the historical resource grades at, certainly. This raise that you see here, which was an old ore pass that they were using to move material. This is 100 feet or 30 meters in height, a meter in diameter, and graded 28 grams per ton across its entire length. It's just incredible, the data we are sitting on that's indicating the richness of this deposit. One of the biggest takeaways from this is all of these white arrows. As I've already said, this is open in all directions. And more notably, this is right at surface and only down to 180 meters depth. As a mesothermal deposit, which it is, we know that these things run for kilometers to depth and on strike. So we believe we are truly sitting on the tip of an iceberg here, and we're excited to demonstrate that with the drilling. Uh, and from that, in this image, you can see that towards the west here, where that purple lens is of mineralization, that is where we're focused on drilling to expand this known to the east towards the west.
So, Robert, it looks like there are some drill holes over there in
There
that
are.
purple section. Do you have the data on those?
We do, and I'll be showing more of that in one sec. Particularly from some twin holing that was done here in return results that were even better than the holes that were originally drilled. We believe, and in 3D, that's the beauty of this. We can see that we believe that this is really the continuation of the north zone. This peach colored one is north to the north end, what we call the north zone. We believe that's really continuing towards to the west, and that is why we're focused entirely on this west side to pick up all of these zones and continue on with them. You can see through these dotted features that we do have data that's indicating that that's likely the case, a couple of drill holes and otherwise. Uh, but certainly the drilling that's been done to date indicates that the north is continuing onward. So we're excited about getting our new drilling in there to show that. The amount of drilling that's been done there, though, Corey, it's interesting you point that out. Historically, they just weren't quite drilling at the right angle, at the right place to pick up the rest of these zones. And that's around the time they ran out of funding and shut down. And it was left like this. It was just incredible that it wasn't further explored. So it was pretty immediate for us through our analysis to see that that was the biggest opportunity right out of the gate is to start drilling there. Certainly to depth, as I mentioned, is the case that we're looking forward to going to as well. This is a cross section. On the right side of the page is north, on the left side is south, and you can see the underground workings there in the center of the page. So you get a sense of where this section's cut through everything. But it really helps emphasize, particularly for the geologists observing this, that the amount of gold occurrence that we have here is outstanding. The fact that it's consistent, we know it runs to depth. We're only at 180 meters, as you can see on the right-hand side, the graduated, depth here. It's just incredible, the potential. And those peach colors, that's that QFP, quartz feldspar porphyry package that I showed you at the plan view, the surface view. And you can see how closely that's associated with the gold deposition. So excited about that. More on the fact that scale is everything here. We know with only 180 meters deep so far, discovered that these things run for kilometers depth. If you benchmark this to, for example, Pure Gold or Red Lake or any of the other nearby mines that are in similar deposit types, mesothermal or orogenic, if you will. We know this. And the fact that we're only at 180 meters certainly emphasizes that scale potential for this, not only just for scale, but also ounces. If we infer that the ounce density we currently have at only 180 meters deep and 650 meters in strike length is continuous, then it's not going to take us long to get well into the multi-million ounce range. Another way of looking at this, at the top of the screen, you can see ounces per vertical meter. Another way that gold producers look at the density of the gold, how much is there per meter of development to depth. It's a good indicator of sort of the value of a deposit. Do the math on what we already have, we're probably sitting around 1,300 ounces per vertical meter. We double our strike length, which we're working on, and only to that 180 meters, then we're anticipating to double our ounces as well, at least. It's bringing us, 2,600, starting to approach that rarefied territory that you see here from Red Lake and Musselwhite and so forth in terms of ounce density.
Okay, and
So
that's important to understand though, right? Is
it
that
is.
this depth component, it's available to you because, well, you only know down to 180 meters, but you are still exploring along strike. So that can also include or increase those gold ounces per vertical meter.
That's exactly it. I mean, our mandate, our goal and our strategy right now is not to get back and backfill and elevate the the 43101 category of these ounces. We're focused on expanding the scale of this, and of course from there you would go back and work on tightening up and elevating the category of the mineralization. So yes, we're very much focused on that right now.
Okay.
Moving forward, you see here on the left, this table, that is results from the 2018 drilling that was done, the twin hole drilling. And many of these intercepts came back well better than the holes they were twinning, which really caught my attention and was one of the catalysts for getting me on board with this. It's just incredible, what they're able to hit. And we've color coded it. So, looking back through it, at your leisure, you can match the colors with the mineralized zones and where those twin holes were done. Again, emphasizing that this is so shallow, direct from surface. If I put my mine engineering hat back on, which I am as well, um, I think about deposits that have this density, this richness of gold right on surface means that you're likely looking at a project that would likely have a high rate of return, which means and bodes very well for the overall valuation of a project, but also the extraction of it. It affords a lot of alternatives, if you will, for the mining side of things. We said that, look, it's only at 180 meters deep, the historical resource, but there was a hole drilled in the early 80s, actually, down to 240 meters directly below the historical resource, and they hit 325 grams at 1.5 meters. So we know the mineralization continues, not only just because of the deposit type, but this is encouraging in terms of perhaps where the grade is going. We don't know. Some of these deposit types get higher in grade as they go to depth. Some get lower. Some stay the same. This is certainly an encouraging indication that we've got a lot more gold to depth to discover. The bulk samples I spoke of, four that were taken, all 500 pounds each from those underground workings, 19 grams per ton average gold grade. Incredible. Those were historically done, by the way. The workings now are flooded. They're not something that we're using or plan to use in the near future. It is good to know that cost has been sunk and that we could pump it out, rehab it, and get back under there and continue work. But that's more towards a medium to long range plan with building out the resource. And I mentioned that raise, that 100-foot raise, grading 28 grams per ton. So we're getting a lot of indications here that it's a lot richer than meets the eye, something that really excites us for sure. This image here shows the 2018 twin hole drilling that was done. You can see how most of it was focused around the historical resource and firming that up. In parallel with that, they reassayed a lot of the historical core, which we have and is in remarkably good condition. And again, all of this came back at over 94% correlation with the original assay results, something that's quite encouraging.
What about over to the west there? That's one thing
Over
that
to the
stood out to
west,
me too, because that's where you guys are going to be exploring, and you have two holes in there that already hit high grade over some nice
that's
width.
right. You'll notice that that's where that west zone was, that purple zone that they drilled, and that's where they also stopped drilling. These are two twin hole drills that we drilled in, and the results from that were quite impressive. I'm going to show you that more specifically in a sec, because Corey, you raise a good point there of what is going on to the west. Why are we drilling to the west? This slide here simply is meant to show you that the richness of this, the high grade nature of this, is not localized in blobs or one specific area. It is consistent across the entire known mineralization. It's outstanding. and is something that really excites us in terms of the consistency of the high grade nature of this, the distribution of the gold. Um, Here we're moved to the west, and Corey, we're answering that question now. We're looking specifically at two core boxes at two intervals where they hit, 11.5 grams at 9.5 meters, and another one 13.3 grams over 5 meters. Why are we showing this? I'm going to zoom in here. I'm not a geologist, so I'm not going to profess that or get into any sort of deep aspects to this, but you can see how we've labeled the rock types here along the intervals and along with the grade. But the first thing you take away from this is what I said earlier, that we're not chasing these white quartz veins where all the gold might be. That's not the case here. The gold is pretty much evenly distributed across these zones, what I referred to as a flood zone earlier. So what you see here is very consistent rock type, you can see, and there's very subtle differences between where the high grade is and then where you have these little areas where there's lower grade. And if I zoom in, you can see what I'm talking about. That whitish kind of milky where the higher grade is, that's quartz, and that's where the gold likes to go. And the areas that are darker have less of that, and that's it. But so the rock type itself is quite consistent. So from a mine engineering perspective, this is a dream in terms of rock quality and what you'd likely be up against in terms of extraction, which is likely for this mechanized, low cost, high tonnage potential here. But beyond that, even the results that you see here are really demonstrating the consistent nature of the mineralization. Right, it's pretty impressive. Moving along, that deep hole I spoke of, if you want to call 240 meters deep, it's well below historical resource, but you can see where that targeted right underneath the workings, 325 grams over 1.5 meters. So we know this is running to depth. Excited about that. Coming back to surface now, resetting ourselves, I'm going to show you a little more about where we're drilling right now and why we're doing that. On surface here, you can see these red lines, how they start to splay and multiply. We believe that's what's happening, but also we believe this is starting to trend towards the northwest. And I'll show you in a sec why that's so important. But we're also looking to pick up these main zones that are part of the historical discovery and just continue on with them around the same depth to the west. So exciting. Going underground here, looking at this, I think if there's any image that you recall and take away from this, it should be this image. This is the known on the right-hand side, on the east side of that gray diabase dike feature. We are focused on expanding that right now to the west along the same proximate depth, about 180, 200 meters. As you can see, our drill holes are also anticipated to be doing double duty. So, this central yellow zone here, we're, looking to pick up and continue towards the west, but also everything that's in between those zones. Remember that quartz feldspar porphyry package I spoke of earlier between the north and central zones. We're hoping to pick that up towards the west as well. So with 2,500 meters, we're going to be getting a lot of duty out of this drilling, and we're excited about it.
So you're really just looking at where, let's say, those zones are faulted over to the west, hey? It looks like they've moved in a certain respect, but you just don't know where yet?
No, we believe they continue actually consistently from where they're known on the east side. We just have to reestablish it with drilling and continue it towards the west. Perhaps as part of your question, if I understand it, Corey, the west zone here, you can see how it's bending towards the northwest. And we show it on that surface display that there's probably some, splaying off of into other sort of sub lenses, if you will. That's something we're looking to pick up as well, because we believe that's the case. So again, we're expecting the ounce density to be the same, if not better, on this side than towards the east. And towards the east, you can see at least that, the far east side of that. And that's why if somebody, might be thinking, well, why didn't you just keep drilling on this side? It's the most known. Well, we can already see that these things are starting to converge. So we felt that in terms of getting our biggest bang for our buck right out of the gate and demonstrating additional scale to this, that we'd want to continue where we believe this is not only expanding along strike, but likely growing as well to the north and south.
Yeah, fair enough. Prove up those high grade ounces close to surface.
Yeah, that's it. And looking at the north side of this, there's that north zone. There's that diabase dike, and this sort of a cartoonish kind of thing. How you can see kind of what we're doing, right? We're looking to fill in the gaps, really change this west zone, which the previous owners originally called it. Probably relabel this all to the north zone again, right? It's drilling dependent, of course. We've yet to see those results, but we're certainly anticipating that that'll be the case. And you can see here that these squares are 25 meter by 25 meter squares. So in some cases, you've got 100 meters or so step out and delineation. And others, it's more like 50. But I think it conveys, what we're doing fairly concisely. Stepping back to the south, there's that yellow central and orange south zone. Again, we got a drill hole here that graded significantly in the south zone, and we're looking just to continue that and that middle central zone I spoke of towards the west as well. So if we zoom out now and recall that this small purple box is is what hosts the Lingman Lake, this patent claim package. We've zoomed out now. This is the Lingman Lake Greenstone Belt, essentially. And you can see from our recent claimed consolidations that have been done, we now hold about 85% of this entire belt and over 90% of this all-important margin. You see this peach-colored margin on all of this. That is the main contact zone between this Greenstone Belt, rock environment and the host rock that it's in, right? What's exciting here is that, and it's well known as well, that in these types of deposits, the gold likes to move along that margin when it was being formed and deposited. The fluids that carry it would travel along fractures and along these zones where there's ability for it to do so. But when it sees a turn in the road, an inflection, if you will, that gives cause for the gold to say, okay, I'm off the ride, I'm stopping, I'm depositing here. That is indeed where Lingman Lake is, the deposit that we have and we're drilling is right on that inflection. But you can also see the number of other inflections that we have along here. It's just incredible. The next slide I'll get into shows the scale of the potential here, but this is also hosting a significant amount of sediments as well. And it's certainly well known that amongst the greenstone rock types that there's also good potential in the sediments as well. I'll draw attention to the Dome Mine in Timmins. That's hosted in sediments within the Greenstone Belt, for example. Massive historic mine. There's our land package. There's the geophysics that were flown in 2018, as you can see. And you can also see how much we've expanded the land package since. But from the data that we do have, surface sampling, geophysics, and so forth, you can see they've already found a number of high potential targets regionally that we're most focused on right now and looking forward to digging into in the spring. We're going to be flying the rest of this in the spring, as well as LiDAR across our entire package before we start sending teams out to these zones and other zones that have yet to be discovered to get even more precise data out of them to essentially start defining more regional drill targets. Name of the game, of course, we're working from this purple box here, which is where Lingman deposit is and is known towards the unknown. So it's 80% of our efforts are there, of course, but we're also focused in running the regional program in parallel. We believe that there's serious potential here for multiple Lingman-like discoveries. And as evident by these targets you see here from 1 all the way to 7, just as a start, really. The gold is associated, as I said, with this main contact, that peach colored in the previous slide, denoted by this red solid line. Uh, Along with that, you've got these blue fault lines, right? These major faults, and that is essentially where the gold is typically found in these types of rock packages, greenstone belts. Uh, Again, point towards Kirkland Lake, Timmins, almost identical in terms of the rock type, the faulting, that are there. Cadillac break fault. There's other faults there, all essentially trending along the main contact as well. The scale of this, targets 3, 4, and 6, you put those together, that's probably 7 to 8 kilometers, maybe. You can put the entire Kirkland Lake camp right here. It just speaks to scale and potential that we have. Um, Expanding on that, over here in target number 2, way out on the west, um, there was historic blast trenching done, surface sampling, and the results when our team got a hold of it were just off the scale. It was really something. And so when they conducted this and further work in 2018, 2019, actually all the way up to early 2020, they went back and resampled some areas around this target number 2, and again those results were just outstanding. So there's a lot of confidence that we have a lot more to discover here. And I think if I put my hat on from a gold producer's perspective, that's what big gold producers and all the way down to small gold producers look for, is district level gold production potential. And so, we fully anticipate that there's a lot more than just Lingman Lake here in terms of deposits. And to be able to unlock that and demonstrate it, I think is going to be a serious value proposition for not only our existing shareholders, but those that are considering jumping on board with us.
So just a quick point of clarification, then the
Yeah.
program this year, the regional program, it's really just isolating drill targets, right? Are you going to get any drills on any of these targets outside of that Lingman gold zone target?
That is our goal and our aim. Clearly, that's going to be driven ultimately by market reaction and funding. The more we can fund, the more we can do. Um, I can say personally, of 15 years corporate development with Barrick and Yamana combined, having been all over the globe looking at opportunities, the rarity of this is stunning to me. Something that is so drill ready, as we've just looked at, you can start drilling at depth along strike, and you're pretty sure you're going to start adding gold ounces pretty rapidly. So that's really what has us excited about this, is unlocking this so quickly. So yes, the short answer is that, Corey, that the geophysics, the LiDAR, the boots on the ground doing more IP type work and soil and geochem, it's all about zoning into where you're going to put the drill next. Essentially, X marks the spot. And we believe we've got a lot of X's. So it's, again, really excited to get that going pronto. Valuation I spoke of, most companies in this Red Lake region and around the region are valued at about $100 per ounce. And, deals are getting done for a lot more than that, upwards of $200 to $300 per ounce. So pretty good value. Looking here, you can see the results that we've been generating from our efforts to get going, get funded, get that money in the ground, get our camp built, and start drilling in such a short amount of time. Over a period of say 3 months, we've increased over 300% the value of the shares and value to our shareholders. Not looking to take our foot off the gas there anytime soon. So we're certainly hoping and excited about watching that continue to grow from drill results we're looking to put out, certainly when they come in over the next few weeks, now that the drill is turning. We focused as well on the team building, right now between the management team and our advisory board. We've rounded that out quite well, as you can see, in the multiple areas. And we've been leveraging that from day one, and we're getting excellent results from it. And so it really brings us to the conclusion where, so far we've set out to do what we said we would do when we said we'd do it. We've secured funding, the initial $1 million target that was targeted for funding just before I was appointed. We raised that in 4 days. And a couple of weeks later, we doubled that. And then a few weeks after that, tripled it just before the Christmas break. So fully funded right through this drill program. And we've had our head down ever since, getting prepared, getting going to start drilling when we projected we would around March. And sure enough, last week we had started that. As I said, in light of very difficult COVID conditions, very difficult weather conditions as well. Our on the ground team, led by our founder, actually, John Lelever, have done an incredible job getting this up and running. So looking forward, after this drill program, as I said, we're looking to start the regional exploration program once the snow starts to melt, but also amplify our drilling efforts. Now, that'll certainly be funding dependent, but we're hoping that that comes to a point where we can amplify that effort with more drills and return results faster to our shareholders. So again, we believe the sooner we can get the funding in the ground, back as ounces, back as value to shareholders, the better. And that is something we really are excited about.
So it really is then, Robert, or it's especially in terms of the initial drill program here, is showing scale and size around that historic resource. And then after you hopefully show that extension to the west and those different zones, then are you going deep or are you going to some of these other regional targets?
It'll be both, Corey. Again, it's funding dependent, right? But the ultimate goal is to do both. As I said, 80% focused on the known, and that is Lingman Lake. So yes, we would be continuing to step out strike of Lingman Lake, but also going back and going to depth, taking it down to 400 or 500 meters, whatever, seems applicable at the time, as well as some infilling and tightening up the data. As I mentioned earlier, the Nordman Engineering Group works towards bringing this into the 43101 compliance. It's all of that. So taking Lingman to depth and strike, but also discovering and getting started on regional targets as well, where we believe there's very high potential for further high-grade discoveries.
Okay. So I guess we're just waiting for some of these drill results to come back then. Hey, and then
You
start
bet.
proving
Me
out that
included.
west.
That's right. And we expect to get those in the next few weeks. I mean, assay labs have been ground down quite a bit with COVID, but we've got a pretty good situation set up. So we're hoping to get our results sooner than later.
Okay. Perfect. Robert, anything else that you just want to, I guess, leave our audience with, bring them up to speed? I feel like they should have a pretty good understanding of this drill program and the potential you're seeing, not just to the west, but also regionally. What do you want to leave our audience with?
I think ultimately this is one of the most unexplored high potential regions in Canada, period. If not in other jurisdictions. It's been proven through the rock types and so forth, as we've seen in Kirkland Lake, Timmins. We're excited about that. I get a lot of questions right at the end of, well, tell me why I should invest in Signature. And the short answer is, we're here to make you money. If you want to make money, the sooner you get in on the train, the sooner you'll make money. You saw that through our share price performance. You'll see it through the results as they start coming in.
All right. As I mentioned, please email me with any follow-up questions, fleck@kereport.com. I will get those addressed for you. And Robert, I do appreciate you taking us through the company and this exploration potential that you see at this Lingman Lake project. We'll follow up as some news hits the market, especially when it comes to drill results. So in the meantime, Robert, I'll chat with you again soon, but thank you for this update.
Thank you, Corey.